Welcome back to another episode of DIGGITY Podcast. Today, I am joined by the wonderful Evan from WASD and Beyond, and also OBO whenever that comes back. And as a whole, the Spawncast Network, or Spawn Camp Network.
Spawncast.
Spawncast. Spawn Camp Network, which we are very, very happy to be a part of. That is a collection of very nerdy podcasts, from everything from anime and Gunpla with the Build Bros, some PC gaming and some more topical gaming with WASD and Beyond. Obviously, if you're listening to us, we are a news-based gaming podcast. And then we have OBO, which is the redheaded stepchild, and kind of out there in its own world of just being anything and everything. No topic is safe or off limits or whatever you may have it. But yeah.
Not.
Yeah, that's been an adventure, and hopefully that'll be coming back here soon. Yeah, absolutely. So first off, I'm going to let you go ahead and plug your stuff. Where can the fine people find WASD at?
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Beyond WASD. I think that's the same for both of them. I don't run the socials. That's Nick's job. However, I do comment on posts that I find pretty funny, or stuff that like you do with the Spawn Camp one or Diggity or whatever. I try to make fun of Nick.
Yeah, well, as one does.
That's kind of like the par for the course. And then to listen to any of the WASD and Beyond podcasts anywhere you get your podcasts, same, WASD and Beyond. And then you can also go to, spawncamp.co for the website. And then that kind of gets you to everybody, Bill Bros, Diggity, OBO, if you want to go back and listen to the archives.
Absolutely.
And then WASD. So yeah, that's where you can find us. And we got an episode coming out tomorrow about a very topical game that's been around for quite some time, and that the server has gotten into over the past couple weeks. And hilariously, we were singing the praises of it when we recorded it, and then it's gone to shit.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You almost think it's the other way, right? Where you cheer it on and then it's like, oh, it works better now. It's like, no, completely broke.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But if you have not checked out the Spawn Camp website, spawncamp.co, definitely go over and check that out. It gives links to Twitter and Instagram for all the different shows, as well as I believe Spotify and Apple were the ones that we mainly went with. There's also a YouTube feed at the bottom, as well as YouTube links directly to each playlist for each channel. So everybody within Spawn Camp is now uploading to the Spawn Camp YouTube. So if you are listening to audio, go over there and check out the YouTube channel as well. We put up gameplay as well as live versions of the podcast, or not necessarily live, but video versions of the podcast. Definitely worth checking out. If you are not following us on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at DIGGITY Podcast. I've been doing a bad job of posting lately. I'm not going to lie. I've been bad about it. I need to get back in that groove, but social media just kind of sucks the life right out of you. So every once in a while, you just need a little bit of a break, but I'll be back soon. But with that, we like to stick to a tradition here on Diggity before we get into everything else. What have you been playing, Evan?
Oh my. So recently, since I've been in Grand Rapids this week, I've kind of dedicated a good portion of my time to playing Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy and getting through that game, as I have not finished it yet, and I remember how much fun I had with it, so I want to go through and finally just take care of it once and for all, and it's been good, just as fun as I remember it the first time, really get into it. Especially, I love the licensed music and whatnot, and I like that that's a thing. It makes it feel even more like the movies in that regard, because that's how I first heard about Guardians of the Galaxy, was through the movie.
Yeah.
So it's like a game where it's like they really nail the characters, probably better towards the comic accurate versions, but again, for me, I recognize it more as the movies. So it's like I hear the way that, Star-Lord kind of like has his humor and sarcasm, and it reminds me and makes me feel like I love it. The game is so good. So that's been part of it. F1 2021, gearing up for F1 22. Playing that a lot recently, both by myself and with a good buddy of mine, Elliot, who did the music for our shows, for the WASD hotfix and the main episodes. We play a career together. That's a lot of fun. He's a terrible driver. I hope he listens to this, because that's just me making fun of him now at this point. He's better than I am, way better than I am. Like he can actually it's almost like you could give us the same car and he beats me by like a half second, and it's like, how'd you do that? Like, I don't know what you did that I didn't do. No, he's actually really good, but it's just whenever we play together, it's like we just are magnets to other cars, and it's like, I don't know what happens. We can play by ourselves, we're gods. We're like super great. We're overtaking, we're getting like podiums, first place, all that kind of stuff. We play together, it's like, yeah, I don't know what happened, but we're starting in the back of the grid. Oh, and we also just hit every single car somehow. Like, we don't know like how it works. It's that, and then Star Citizen, which has been less than ideal.
Yeah, that was the game he was mentioning earlier, was Star Citizen. Yeah. And the whole server that we kind of all game in and chat and talk in has been completely overrun by Starfield. Not yet. Foreshadowing. Star Citizen. And so I actually just picked it up last night. I have not gotten a chance to play it yet. I just downloaded it. I'll probably jump into it this weekend. And from everything I've been hearing within the Discord as of late, sounds like it all went to shit when it was kind of half-ass working a minute ago. So,
yeah, I mean, it was like the update came, I think, end of April, and it was great, right? Better performance than we've ever gotten in the game, like in terms of graphical, like FPS stability, that kind of thing. Very little bugs, all that kind of stuff. And then it was this week. It's just crashes. You're dying from random things you don't even know. Like, it's kind of going back to its old way, and I think that's. For the people who have played it a bit longer, like myself and John, we get it. You know, it's like, it has these periods. It goes like, sometimes it works really well, other times it doesn't, and it just was working really well recently. So for the new guys who've gotten in, like Connor, Noah, and Nick, really, they're like, what's wrong with this? And it's like, there's actually realistically nothing inherently wrong here. This is actually how it always plays. It's just that you've had a good time of it not having an issue,
which isn't necessarily right, but
right. No,
I mean,
it's not right. Yeah,
it's been in alpha for years now, and probably will remain in alpha for more years. So
yeah, it's actually been 8 years. It's been in alpha 8 years. They started development in 2012, so it's been but everybody's been playing it. Fun fact about that, I don't think you were there last night when we did it, but we've been working on trying to get a ship that costs around 5 million credits, which is very hard to get. And I'm going to say this, like, Nick is the best space prostitute that I've ever seen.
That's perfect.
And I said last night, because we were going to just get money and work to get it. And then it's like, people just were giving us like credit, like hundreds of thousands, millions of credits. Like, Nick said, I only have 320 credits. So somebody just gave him 1 million. Connor did the same thing. I only have 5,000 credits. Some dude just gave him 1 million. So last night, and we were playing, and some guy was bragging about how he had a bunch, like 43 million. Like, jeez. And, you know, people naturally ask. They're like, one, can I have some? And other people are like, well, how do you do that? How do you get to that point where you have that much? And he kind of said, well, I play for 8 hours a day. And I was like,
holy
Jesus.
Shit.
And he's like, I can make around 540,000, give or take 90,000 an hour. And people obviously asked, and then he made a big fuss. He's like, that's actually how I figure out who I don't play with, is who begs. And I'm like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, why would you you go into a server, you bring it up, and then you just kind of like pick and choose who you hang out with in the game. And then lo and behold, somebody else wires Nick 1 million credits when he makes fun of the guy for it. And then I was like, you have a better, statistically, from like speaking from just these past couple of days, you have a better chance of just going into servers and asking for 1 million, and you'll most likely get 1 million. And that's exactly what he did. Jeez. He did it 5 times. It didn't work. And then he said, one more server. He went into a server and somebody gave him 1 million. And I was like, that's it. That's it. That's how you do it.
That's wild.
So yeah, we got a brand new ship yesterday. Huge, can fit everybody. Can fit you, me, and 6 other people in it.
Really? Yeah.
Like, yeah, not to sleep in necessarily, but you could probably fit a whole server in it if you really worked hard enough. Like, It's just big in terms of the space, like the cargo space. It's kind of like one of those big Air Force transport planes, like the big cargo ones.
Yeah.
Like, that's how big the back is. So you can fit vehicles in there. You can fit a ship in there. So
I'm so excited to try this. Like, I understand why there's so much negativity around it, and I have been super negative about it as well. But at this point, like, I'm not expecting anything from this game. I just know the entire Discord is playing it, so I wanted to join in and screw around in it, and like, yeah, it's crazy and it doesn't run well half the time, but I just wanted to experience it, I guess. And honestly, for $45, I've spent more money on stupider shit, so this should be fine, and it'll be. I mean, if I get even, you know, if the server only plays it for a couple more weeks or a month or whatever it may be, and I'm sure it'll be on and off, right? Because some of those guys have some serious money in it too. If I can get, you know, a good amount of playtime out of it, I'm content, right? Like I'm. One of the games I've been playing, which actually the only game I've been playing is Tiny Tina's, and I'm at about 26 hours right now, and I'm almost done with it. I'm on chapter 9, I believe, out of 10 chapters, and I've been doing all the side stuff and like exploring everything, right? But
that's sweet.
For a full pop $60 game and getting 26 hours out of it, and I won't continue on after this, for at least not for a while. I feel content with that. So if I can get, you know, even 20 hours out of Star Citizen and just have fun, I'm content with that. I understand it's going to be a buggy absolute disaster. I didn't buy the single player campaign because it's probably never going to come out, but I just wanted to try it out, right?
I did it.
Brave man.
28. We looked at it yesterday, or I think we talked about it when we recorded for tomorrow. I bought it in August of 2018, and I bought just because I thought of the inherent deal of it, where I was like, oh, $65 for the multiplayer that's available now and the entire single player game. I'll take that. It's only an extra $20. So like,
that's fair
for if and when it comes out. Which I mean, most of the team right now is working on that, so that's why updates have been slow to the regular game. So there's a hope there, obviously, but I mean, same thing, right? Is like, it's a buggy mess, but we said it yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever we recorded it, was when this game works, there's nothing like it. Like the level of detail, the level of player freedom to be able to do what you want to do. And you know, that was something that was really popular back when No Man's Sky was coming out, or before it came out, was, you know, they were showing like, here, look at any of these planets, you can go to any of these places. And it's like, okay, so take that concept, make the detail the level of like Crysis, like photorealism, almost real life.
It's pretty looking. I mean, it really is.
And then apply it to something like that, right? So it's like, for this, it's kind of different because these planets that they've given us for the first system are less than ideal. I'd say they're not the most in terms of an exploration vibe, like, which is what I love to do. They're not that. They're unique, sure, but they're not like jaw-dropping. They're not like, you know, there's one that's an entire city. It's a man-made planet, and it's like, that concept is cool, but like when you go there, you're like, oh, there's really no place I can just land and just walk around on the forest floor kind of thing. Like, I can't just go anywhere. But no, I mean, I think you'll have some good times with it, especially because it's a lot better when you play with friends, especially when you play with Nick, because he likes to break everything, which is like, for me, it's one of those things where it's like, it's funny, but at the same time, I'm like, you are causing problems it's like, if I can eject you out of the ship, I'm going to eject. Like, if I can do that somehow, I'm going to do it. Because I've done that before, where it's like, I need you to get out. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, get out.
Yeah.
Like, go into space.
If it wasn't for the Discord, I would not be playing it, because this is not the type of game that I would enjoy playing by myself. But having that community and that group of people playing it and just basically breaking it in every way possible, that's going to be fun. Like, that's just entertaining.
I remember you saying that. You're not a big space guy.
No, I really am not. But also, like, this is one of the most infamous games at this point. Like, it's raised crazy amounts of money on Kickstarter. There's a whole subreddit dedicated to literally just like getting refunds for the game, which is wild. But I forgot about that. Yeah, it's just a very weird game. But like you said, when it works, there's nothing like it. And that's why I really hope that at some point this does get finished and it does become what was promised and what
they've wanted it to be.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And I think it has that potential, hopefully. I mean, like I said, I have not got to play it. I've just kind of watched you guys play it a little bit here and there, and it just looks like it it's rowdy, messy fun, kind of like how Gang Beasts is in a way, right? Like very different games, but Gang Beasts is broken as shit 90% of the time too, but it's fun because you're playing with friends and you're just fucking around and doing things. And
like yesterday or 2 days ago we did it and you weren't on, and I think you would have cracked up, is that you can go behind people, and no matter if they're in your party or not, you can do like an unarmed takedown where you just knock them out for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So I went up behind that and I did it to Nick, and it's hilarious because it's like you grab them by like the back of your head or back of their head and just smack your knee into their face.
Oh God.
And they fall down. It's got this awesome smack. And then it's like I had a tractor beam like tool attachment, and I knocked Nick out, and then I just picked him up and just moved him out into space. And he woke up just floating in zero gravity. And it's like it's that kind of thing, right? So I mean, if anyone listening is interested in that, WAC will have an episode on that very shortly with two people who have played it a bit more than Nick, because Nick's owned it for a long time, but he only hops in when we're playing it. He's not somebody who plays it on his own. But yes, you were. I just wanted to say before we move on, if that's what you wanted to do, they've raised $458 million,
which is insane. Just crazy.
And there's the live stats is that they've raised $458,010,322, which is up from what I said yesterday by like 1,000.
Yeah.
And there's 3.7 million people who own a game package.
Jeez.
And you can look, they've actually been pretty open more or less about how they spend their money and what they do with their time, which is also a reason I think as to why it takes so long, is because it's like, we can say, I think you and I can say for certain that like all the other companies we cover, Activision, Blizzard, Rockstar, and so on and so forth, are very private with how they make games and what they do.
Oh, absolutely.
And Star Citizen is not that. They're like, no, we're gonna have a live stream every week, going over something new that we're doing, that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for you to get into it and try it. I hope that the servers are very ideal, because like for our buddy Noah, they were not, and he's had nothing but a struggle. And I feel bad because it's like, again, like that's kind of been our motto when we've been playing it recently, is that when it works, you will have the best time of your life.
Yeah.
It's just the level of detail and all that stuff. And then when it doesn't work, it's like, yeah, it sucks. But then you got to remember, right? I mean, this is all a work in progress. It'll probably never be, I'd say, like a finished 1.0. I could see it being a 1.0 release kind of thing, but I don't see it being something where it ever gets stopped in terms of being worked on in some way or another. Yeah. But if it does, and they make it to the point where it's like, hey, yeah, this is the game, it's released, and everything after is just community updates and just patches and stuff like that, but all the content's in the game, everything we promised is in the game, that'll be a day where I think that a lot of people who have been very negative towards it are like, you know what, now I'm going to buy it and check it out.
Oh, I think by the end of all this, it'll sell just gangbusters. I mean, it's already sold exceptionally well, but I mean...
right, I mean, in terms of that, right, they've already kind of made their money back. It can only go up from here. And we talked about that as well, where it's like everything they're doing is stuff that the other companies that we talk about don't do. Like, they have to make these systems work. They can't, like, these things have to be created rather than just, they're not borrowing something from Rockstar, like an engine, to make it work, right? They're using the Amazon Lumberyard, which isn't used very often. And then all the stuff for their game they have to make. Every single piece of it has to be made so that way it can keep the level of quality and detail while also being this huge 60 system game that you can go, and there's only one loading screen, which is when you load up the game and get into a server. Everything after that is, it's like No Man's Sky, right? Like, there's no loading screen after you load in. So I'm excited for you to play it, and hope we can show you a good time around the little system we have.
Hell yeah.
Show you some of the cool stuff. But yeah.
So speaking of space, unfortunately, this has been a regular thing on our show. The delays of the week. So it was just announced, I believe today or yesterday, that
I think it was today.
Yeah, today.
It was like 6 hours ago.
Right. Redfall and Starfield have both been delayed to the first half of 2023. I can't say I'm entirely shocked by this. I'm actually more shocked that Redfall was pushed back, but we also hadn't seen a ton about it, but there's not a huge amount of hype around it either. Whereas something like Starfield obviously has this immense amount of hype behind it. And
the
they
next
just
big thing, right?
Yeah,
from
and
Bethesda anyway.
And they just recently I mean, hell, it was maybe a month ago that they just put something out there like 11/11. We'll see you then, basically. And you're like, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised to see this pushback. Especially knowing Bethesda and playing a lot of their games, I think this is probably a wise decision. This is all a new engine and everything else, like work out the bugs. And I mean, granted, at the end of the day, it is a Bethesda game, so I fully expect there to still be some bugs and some gremlins around there. But I'm not disappointed to see this pushback, as long as by the time it comes out, it's worth it, right? I want to see this game actually, break that mold of what Bethesda typically puts out, where it is like, it's a buggy fucking mess, but we love it anyway. Like I thoroughly want Bethesda to have a huge win with this. And that's not even just for the, the whole Xbox has no games argument, right? Like this is solely like, in my mind, I look at this as a Bethesda game. Obviously, it is a Xbox published game. Well, depending on how you look at it, but it is an Xbox Studio game, right?
So is that their first now?
Yeah,
their
it'll
first
be
Xbox Studios published.
Yeah. And I think Redfall was supposed to maybe come out before, but regardless, one way or another, like this is going to be their first game that it isn't already in a contract with PlayStation or whatever. And so, I mean, this has to be a massive win for Xbox. It absolutely has to kill it, or else all of the people that talk shit are going to continue to talk shit. Actually, they'll talk shit regardless, so it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, still needs to be a massive win for Bethesda and Xbox as a whole, and to solidify and show the value of the purchase that that Xbox made by picking up Bethesda and all of their subsidiaries.
Right. I was going to ask you a question about it, because it is not only that it's their first Xbox, Studios published game, but Bethesda's known for being that, right? They're known for just having bugs, and it's like, it's a feature, like it's not something necessarily to like, whereas other game companies probably would release it with that level of bugs and they'd be like, well, what's going on here? Whereas Bethesda's kind of like, they don't really, I wouldn't say care, but it's like some of the things they look past more of is just like, that's our trademark, right? And it's like, do you think that Xbox is cool with that, or do you think they're like, this needs to be smooth and there can be like no game breaking bugs, obviously, but very little other bugs compared to your previous titles? Do you think that they're being more strict about that? I wouldn't be shocked. I would personally, if I were Xbox, I'd be like, I don't really give it a crap about your trademark feature, not a bug thing. I care more about, just, I would, if I were what's his name, Phil Spencer, I would like be talking to Todd Howard and be like, this might be crazy for you, but like maybe try and make a game that has like the smoothest, like least buggy mess you could make, and see how you feel. Like, like that would kind of be my stance.
Well, and even then, like I went back to play Elder Scrolls Online. Because I had an MMO itch. I didn't want to pay the subscription every month, because I come in and out of MMO so often.
Right, sure, yeah.
And so I was like, hey, I'll just pick up, this through, whatever the most recent expansion is. It was on a deep sale or whatever, and so I picked it up on PlayStation. Nice. And I went to play it, and it just looks bad. It is just not a pretty game, because it is still on that same engine they've been using forever. Which,
for like what, Fallout 3 and New Vegas, right?
I think it goes all the way back to like Morrowind, if I remember correctly. Like I think it is a modified engine that they've been using for decades. So it's just this crazy thing of like, everything we've seen from Starfield, which granted has been like cinematic mainly. I think there's been a little bit of gameplay, kind of, but it just from a graphical standpoint alone, like bringing that into, we are now, the PS5 and Xbox Series X are like essentially top tier fucking PCs, right? Like these are right up there with about what you could build, but it would cost you a fortune to build as far as a PC goes. And so like to see them bring this into this current generation, I hate to call it new generation, because we're a ways off from.
We're in it.
I understand people still can't get it, but this is the current generation.
We're in it now. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, no.
And so to see them bring not only the graphics that match the times, but also bring hopefully a smooth experience. Granted, it's also become a normal thing to not have smooth experiences in new games, which sucks. But
Dice,
Dice looking at you.
Probably think of some more on the spot.
CD Projekt Red.
Oh yeah, and like that's what I was reading on Twitter after they announced it was people like saying internally where they were like they were nervous about it being November 11th as the release date because they're like that's not gonna fly, and it's like this is something that I can agree with. My dad often says a lot is like just stop giving us a release date a year away. Like just finish the game and then say it.
Wait
like,
damn near till it goes gold. I don't give a shit.
Wait till you have like that's funny because that you said that and that reminded me of a buddy of ours, Elliot, who's been waiting to get a ship that he paid money for in Star Citizen, and they've been working on it and they're getting it to the gold standard, which that definition for them is that once they get it to the gold standard, they never have to work on it again other than bugs. They never have to like change the design. They never have to make things any like so like that's it. But like that, it's like same thing, right? Just make Starfield, and once you have a completed playable version, especially because I think Starfield, if I'm not mistaken, is supposed to be just a single player only game. It's not supposed to be like a multi. So then you have no reason not to make it, complete it, make everything out of its get it all of its gray box state, and just be able to have somebody in-house play through the whole game, every single path, choice, whatever it is. Be able to play through the whole game in every single aspect, every single side quest. And then once you have that and they can actually play through the game and complete it, then release it to the public. Because I mean, that's arguably that's the worst thing about buying a single player game, especially at $60, is it's like you don't have to develop an online component.
Right.
You don't have to develop multiplayer. You don't have to worry about that. So why is it's like Cyberpunk, right? It's like you had no reason to fail, but yet you did.
Well, and there's also that trope of open world games. They have to be big, they have to be massive, they have to be this, they have to be that. And honestly, like I know I am, at least personally, completely burnt out on this gigantic open world thing. Like I would much rather have smaller experiences that are interesting or more like the world is more full, or like I think and I feel like I've talked about this game plenty, but I think Elden Ring personally has one of the perfect open worlds. Like you cannot go like 10 feet without seeing something, right? It is busy, but it's also not crowded. I don't know how to completely explain it, but it's just
I think you actually just did. Like that's perfect. Like I think you explained it perfectly there, because while I'm not a big Elden Ring fan, the last like big open world game that I still go back to now and still have it installed even though it's taken up like 115 gigs is Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
Like
and that's another perfect example.
Supremely detailed, and like you can kind of get lost doing your own thing, like especially in single player, just because obviously it's got more detail. But even with the multiplayer, it's like I can load in and I can just go, I don't really want to do side quests. I don't want to do stranger missions. I don't want to do current missions. I just kind of want to go and hunt in the northern part of the map for a day. And just you can do that, you can go through and do every single aspect of that. You can track an animal, hunt the animal and then skin it there in the spot, or sell it to a somebody in town, right? And you can just kind of do that and just kind of have fun that way. Or you can just travel across and go to places you haven't been yet, and just kind of there's detail in it without it being crowded. Like you're forced, like they're trying to shove it down your throat. Whereas I feel like almost Cyberpunk was in that regard, where it's like,
a lot. It was always so busy.
There's a lot, and I think something that's, I wouldn't say underrated. I think it's a pretty popular thing to do now in open world games like Red Dead. I think Red Dead arguably pioneered that level of detail. Along with it is these random encounters, of just like, you're riding along and all of a sudden, some dude's riding, away from you or whatever. Or like he's riding towards you, but he's got arrows all over his back, and like he just kind of falls down, and it's like, oh, something bad's ahead. Or, you find some guy who crashed a wagon and he's drunk, and it's like, you can either choose to bring him to town, or you can just kind of laugh at him. You can shoot him. You can do whatever you want. And it's like, I remember, Cyberpunk saying like, we have random encounters like that. And I encountered like 3, through the whole game, and it was in the same area every time, and it was it was almost like, look, we have it. It wasn't like you found it, enjoy this thing you found. It's like, hey, look, we can do it too. And it's like, that's not, you can see it. I mean,
that's not what we wanted.
Yeah, you can see, I mean, especially people who play games, you can tell when something is put in there with love and care, or just knowing you're trying to give somebody a good experience versus we did it so that way we kind of we ticked a box essentially. But yeah, no, I'm with you though on being burnt out on the open world stuff. Like, I still play them, obviously, but like Guardians of the Galaxy is a great example, right? It's not an open world, but like where you go is detailed, and it's got story, and it's got characters and investment almost.
Guardians was a treat for me. I thoroughly enjoyed just being able to, like, that linear gameplay felt with just a little bit of exploration to like go find some secrets and stuff,
like nowhere and stuff.
Perfect. It was, I mean, granted, that's something that's been kind of lost, right? Like, we don't see much of that anymore, where that used to be a mainstay in gaming. And so it was, while it was still a new experience, it was like almost kind of a trip down memory lane of like games that I thoroughly enjoyed. And it was just nice to not have to be like, oh, well, I gotta go climb this fucking tower so I can see the area of this and yada yada yada. And I loved Elden Ring and thoroughly enjoyed everything I did in it. But I'm also at that point where I'm like, I don't want to play another open world for a while. Like, this was my favorite open world.
Go back to something like Guardians.
Guardians was perfect. And also, like, I've been finishing up Tiny Tina's, which
I was gonna say,
granted, has been they have some pretty large levels, but they're still somewhat linear, right? You're following a side quest, a main quest, or a couple side quests or whatever. There's some stuff you can go explore to find like new guns and things like that. Right. But even just that, how linear it is to some extent, has been nice to not just have to go explore these crazy worlds and go do this and go do that and explore every nook and cranny and everything. Like,
it's tiring.
Yeah.
You get bored. It's like Assassin's Creed, like almost like an illness, like in Assassin's Creed way. Like, where it's like, oh, great, now I have all of ancient Greece to explore. Yay. But it's not like you're going to those places because there's something there already, and it's how you get that 100% completion or whatever you want to do, right? It's not like you, whereas Red Dead, I'd say, or Elden Ring kind of rewarded you for being smart, or rewarded you for having a exploratory mindset, whereas like Assassin's Creed is just chock full of things everywhere to go do, because they feel, I mean, that's kind of Ubisoft's thing, is we have to fill this world, because arguably, and I'm a huge fan of like the Far Cry games, and I was a fan of the earlier Assassin's Creed games, they're at a point now, I personally feel, where it's like they have to fill it with stuff because they can't make it interesting. And it's like, if you make it interesting and it's not, it's like, it's, and even then, like, I would say even Far Cry 5 is not that big of a game, like in terms of a scale. Like, it's decent, it's got a good size to it, but it's not this, if you had made random encounters and interesting things happen, rather than it being like there's side quest here, side quest there, an unlockable gun here, that kind of thing. Far Cry 6 is a testament to that kind of behavior, where it's just like, I want to explore this world, but I want to get lost exploring it, not like, okay, went here, now I got to go down here to get something that is important for me to be able to kill enemies easier, tick that, kind of go do the same thing here. I mean, that's where you fail, is make the player reward the player for having the mindset or the way of doing it, right? If you miss it, no big deal. That's the way you should go about it. Is if you miss it, no issue. But if you do have that mindset and you do explore, you're going to be rewarded with something that helps you in your journey, or it's something, just a cool image, just something cool to see. Like, that's another thing too, where it's like Red Dead doesn't have like a skill tree. So it's like, sometimes you just got to go to places, you got a cool gun, or you got like a melee weapon or a hat or something like that. And then sometimes you just got there and it was like just a cool visual, or it was just like, oh, yeah. Like, I mean, that's, make the player feel smart, I guess, is probably the way of putting it in. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Starfield does that.
I hope so too. And we didn't really talk about Redfall. I don't think
there's not a lot to it.
Right now, we still aren't even 100% sure what's going on with it, or what exactly it's like. It seems
co-op vampire.
Yeah,
right?
it's like, I don't care personally. I'm just being perfectly honest. Redfall is not for me. I understand there's probably an audience for it, but
John's one of them. John is actually really excited for it. He's pretty bummed out that it got delayed.
I thought it looked kind of cool, but it's just not my style of game. So
my dad was into it too. He thought it was pretty sweet. Yeah, but I don't know if he personally cares. He would probably say if I talked to him right now about it, he'd be like, first off, I'm on vacation because he's celebrating his birthday. And then he'd tell me to go away like an employee. And
don't talk to me, I'm on vacation.
Yeah, absolutely he would. And then two, he would say exactly what I said earlier, which is like, stop giving me a date and just make the game, finish it, and then give me a date. Don't give me this. We have a whole bunch of post-release content coming. It's like, why don't you just make the game and then give it to me and I'll pay for it? Like, you know, it's almost like going back to that, like you said, trip down memory lane. It's like almost going back to that style of make the game, finish it, and now I pay the money for it, rather than I'm paying money for arguably something that you can almost tell in your gut is not done.
Right. Absolutely.
Like if Starfield were to come out in November, you would have that feeling.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's completely finished. No.
So FIFA has cut their ties with EA, actually. EA has announced that EA Sports FC is going to be the so-called future of interactive football, which will replace the typical FIFA game starting in 2024. So this will make FIFA 23 the last EA and FIFA partnered game, which should come out this year. So EA basically has gone about this saying like, oh, nothing's going to change. We have over 300 licensed partners across the sport. And so they mentioned this in their official blog post. It says 300 licensed partners across the sport, including exclusive partnerships with Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, and MLS, as well as more. They also claim that they are going to retain their portfolio of over 19,000 players, 700 teams, 100 stadiums, and 30 leagues. And to me, this doesn't make any sense because FIFA is like the governing body basically for all of football.
It'd be like EA buying Codemasters to make the F1 games, and then the FIA and EA not being partners anymore. It's like the FIA is the governing body for the Formula 1 series. Like, how do you have the and like that's what they said though with that is like they have their own licenses and deals with all those people. So it's like when the FIFA thing falls through, like it obviously did, it's like they can still do it, but it's like that's all. I'm with you on that, where it's like FIFA can't just shut that down and just be like no.
Yeah, like I don't understand how EA thinks this is going to stay, or how their partnerships are going to, like, they may get a couple games where they still continue those deals, but once those deals run out, all of those people are going to go back to FIFA. So
yeah, like I mean that's a good point. Like how's it going to look in 2024, right? When the next one comes out, like obviously other than the cover changing, what is going to change game wise? And looking through what you sent me here for the show notes, I have to say from like FIFA, where they're like creating a rival game, it's like I'm interested to see that. I'm interested to see what you have. And I mean, this could be something where it almost takes on a life of its own if it ends up being a good rival game. It's like maybe you shouldn't be just paying EA $60 a year to have the same game,
absolutely.
If FIFA makes a better one, like if I could be completely honest, I would 100% pay for a FIFA game rather than an EA game if it's actually improved in some way over the series that is. I mean, it's just the same every year. I mean, updated graphics, physics, whatever, but like it's the same.
I have a hard time believing that EA is going to go through and somehow continue all of these deals that they have had, because all of those deals were made through FIFA, from my understanding, because it has to go through FIFA, from my understanding, or at least in the past. I mean, granted, they may be able to work around some of it, but I don't foresee this going for very long. Maybe 24, right? Like you may still have enough deals where it was like a 2-year contract or whatever, and it may continue. But anyway, FIFA has said that they are going to be working on a rival game that they are currently talking to third-party developers to create, which means they're probably going to be at least, 2024, I would say, before we see this first iteration of it. But they cite this as providing more choice for football and gaming fans. And then in the same conversation, FIFA president Gianni Infantino says, "I can assure you that the only authentic real game that has the FIFA name will be the best one available for gamers and football fans." Like, yeah, no, we're cutting ties because EA's dropped the fucking ball on all this shit for too long. We're gonna kind of half play nice, but also nah. Like, if you want a real game, this is where you're gonna play it. If you want the most authentic experience of being able to, play as your favorite players and teams and everything else, you're gonna want to play it here. So I have
played the FIFA games. Like
I have not played FIFA in a very long time. I downloaded it not too terribly long ago and then just never touched it. I'm not a huge soccer / football fan. That's not really honestly. I'm not huge on sports games. Like, I play racing games and that's about it. But I could personally say fuck all of this. Give me Mario Strikers. Oh, yeah. I just want Mario Strikers. That's all I want in my life. That's the only soccer game I need.
That's all Brody needs. So I played FIFA 22 not too long ago, and I was kind of into it because I was just like, hey, I have nothing better to play, and I might as well give it a shot. And like there were things that I didn't understand because I'm not a huge soccer fan and I don't play the games. And I looked it up, like, because I was doing a career and I was confused because I was like, my guy is like always getting tired right at the end of the games, right? Which is like, I don't know. And I don't know if that's because it wasn't said in game or it wasn't said to me where it is, is this a part of the game or is it a bug? Right. Like, I didn't know, like, do I naturally get tired so I lose that stamina over time, or is it something that the game doesn't have like fixed or something like that? Right. And I looked it up and apparently that's been a bug from the previous game. And it's like,
just carried over.
What I can say to this whole FIFA thing of making a new game is like, from a casual fan, and I'm saying like that very sporadically, like it's kind of like I only play it every now and then, but like to make a rival game that's better and is the best one available for gamers and football fans is just do that. Just listen, like listen to the players who play it and go and say, oh, this is a problem or this is a bug that needs to be fixed. Okay. Because apparently EA has had that bug for the like stamina thing, not only just for when you're playing it personally, like you're actually playing and controlling the characters, but when you're doing like the manager mode, they've had that issue for like 3 games in a row now, and they just don't fix it. And it's like, you're EA. You are like one of the biggest publishing companies, game companies out there. And it's like, how hard is it to fix this?
Yeah.
It's on par with that. It's again, that stupid level of thinking of it's like, you're not going to fix it until it's a major issue. And then you're going to spend even more money to fix it at that point.
Right.
Which is like what we've seen with, especially Activision Blizzard with all the stuff they've had going on personally, internally with personnel and, bad people, where it's like, they didn't fix the problems when they came to light. They've just hushed it. And it's like, now you're in lawsuits paying millions of dollars to people. And it's like, lo and behold, if you had just fixed it, how are you a business? Like,
right. Like, how the fuck do you operate?
Like you meet small business owners who are like, they if there's a problem, whether it's a personal thing or it's like an actual like financial thing, it's like they have to fix it as soon as possible. It's like, how are you this big? And it's like, how have you made it this far?
I think sometimes that's the problem. Once they get so big is when they actually start to run into these issues. When it's smaller, it's a lot more heart to heart. Like you could actually go up and talk to your boss, be like, hey man, this is fucked up. And you'd be like, okay, yeah. But once you get to a certain level, like you don't have that communication. You don't have it. Like, it's definitely one of those things looking at it, especially from the outside in, right? Like you can sit there and be like, how the fuck do you guys make money? Like Jeff and I shit on Madden all the time. They have flags in their intro sequence where there is nothing else going on that are stiff as a fucking board. Like, don't move, they don't do anything. It's crazy.
He got pissed. He got like my dad, like not legitimately mad, but he was trying to play NBA and he's like hitting A every second to skip each little bit. And he's like, if I wanted to watch the game, I'd watch the game.
Right.
He's like, I want to play. He's like, and then it doesn't, so he was in that same thing where he's just like, I don't know any of this shit. Like, just let me, just let me play the game. And it's like, it took forever for him to get into it. And then he got into it and he's, maybe that's more on him where it's like, he didn't know how to shoot. Like he didn't know any of the controls.
Right.
And it's like, at that point, whatever, but it's one of those things where it's like, I agree. You get so big, you stop caring about this stuff. And it's like, but that's how you lose people.
Yeah.
Like if the FIFA game comes out and it's better than the EA game, I mean, that's business, right?
Yeah.
Like that's business. They've made a better product and people are going to go to it. And that's that. And I mean, that's the problem. And you could blame it just as well on the consumers, right? It's like you keep buying Madden every year and then you complain about the issues. So stop buying it, right?
Right.
Like
I stopped buying Madden
really buy
years ago. Stop.
Yeah,
and then I'll like buy one that's, a couple years old. Just so I have a Madden game, or like most recently, I got it for free, or it's on Game Pass or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I still don't play it. My kids play it, but sports games in this day and age are just so soulless, so absolutely soulless. Where it's just this like literal copy and paste of code, like very clearly copy and paste of code.
I think you have. No, sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. But like, I mean, they've seen it. Like in one of the Madden games, I don't remember which one it was. I think it was Madden 20. There was banners still up in the corner that said Madden 19. Like, fucking hell, guys.
It's again, and you can blame it right on them, where it's like, those people, those developers, they don't really have to do anything year in and year out, right? I mean, they try to make it look like they're doing work, but realistically, as a player, can you tell?
Well, when you're on a yearly release schedule, you have to copy and paste anyway. Like, I genuinely, you do.
A new game.
Yeah, you can't build it from the ground up in a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't fully fault them. I more fault people at the top, right? Like I'm sure there are very talented people within EA that can program the fuck out of a game, but they don't have the opportunity to because of, hey, we got to put this out every year. We got to make more money because people go out and buy the fucking game every year. It's crazy. Yep. It's crazy.
You can look right back. You can compare it right to Activision, right? Like, I mean, Raven Software, the guys who made Raven Software made Dead Space. Yeah. One of the biggest horror games of all time, Yeah. And it's like now what are they reduced to?
They're a support studio for Warzone.
And I say that
it's crazy.
The biggest sadness, because it's like, I'm not a Dead Space fan. I'm going to play the new one. I'm going to play the remake. Yeah. It's like I just wasn't into it when I was a kid. And I don't play scary games regularly. I mean, the only one I really will go to is Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. And Resident Evil 8 for obvious reasons, vampire. Anyway. But like, yeah, like Raven Software, the guys who made that were huge, right? They made Dead Space, and like that was, it's a monster of its own. And now, they're a support studio for Warzone, and then they just come up. Then now they're kind of tasked with like, yeah, you can make a COD game every now and then, and it's like,
we'll let you have
look at what you have, like,
right.
I mean, it's like, look at Respawn, right? Like Respawn can do like Titanfall, and now they do Apex, and Apex is good. I mean, in its own way, people like it. It's one of I'd say it's one of the last good battle royales where it's pretty consistent. I mean, I don't like it for the bullet sponginess, but I mean, that's just me. But like, what are they doing? Like,
well, I mean, they do
Apex.
They do have Fallen Order as well. That was Respawn.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they have Fallen Order, and it's like, so. And I know they're doing that. That's just the second one of that is coming up. Yeah. It's like, and I'm saying this just for John because I know he won't listen to this, but like, he'll be happy when I tell him I did, and now he'll listen to it. Titanfall 3. Like,
I wanted so
you have
bad.
it.
I wanted so bad.
You have a gold mine. Like, you have an engine with Apex. You could use that engine and just make it more parkour heavy, add in the Titans. Boom, you're good to go, baby. But no, I get to play Jedi Fallen Over 2, which is like, cool, I'm excited for it. I'll play it. But
I thoroughly enjoyed the first one.
But Titanfall 1 and 2 were huge in terms of like the parkour, that aspect, especially because it was, I wouldn't say controversial, but it was, when it happened, it was like, these are COD devs leaving. They don't like what they're making, and that brought eyes to it more. They were more interested now because it's like, oh, let's see what they do. And it's like, what they did was fantastic. It was just the fault of, I mean, I would assume that's EA's doing of when they pick it, when to release. And like, they released it in the middle of a COD and a Battlefield, which is like, you just tried to butcher it at that point. Like,
EA makes crazy decisions. Like, again, back to how the fuck do you make money?
like we know nothing about business, but yet we could probably come up with a better schedule and a better way to do this than whatever these guys at the top are doing, because it's like they're so cut off from what I think a community of gamers want, as well as, like, I understand it. Their job's to make money, obviously. But, it comes to a point where you have this, where it's like FIFA's like, no, man, no, we're going to go make our own shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not a sports guy either. Like, I mean, the only sport I watch is motorsport. I only watch F1. Right. And That's a bit different, I think, in terms of games, because you have to update that because the cars change every year.
Yeah.
Especially F1, because F1 is different compared to like a NASCAR or an IndyCar, is that their cars are not the same. They look the same, but the packages, the aero packages, the engines, they're all different. They're all made by the teams. So you have a different aspect there. And also the FIA, for as shitty as they are for dumb decisions they make, like apparently now you can't wear jewelry when you're in the car anymore. Like you can't wear an earring, which like people were like, we get it, but like some people understood it, and then other people were like, is this really an issue, or are you just coming up with things because you're bored? Because there's never been an issue with jewelry for the past like 60 years,
right?
You know, so it's like,
let those men wear their gold chains, damn it.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton wears a lot of jewelry, and it's like he made fun of it when they announced it. That him and another world champion made fun of it because they came out with the same thing. I know this is off topic, but like they came out with I thought it was funny. They came out with, you have to wear fire redundant underwear now. You can't wear regular underwear anymore, even though you wear a fire suit. And you can't wear jewelry anymore. So two of the drivers
if it gets through my fire suit, the last thing I'm concerned about are if my MeUndies are gonna fucking hold up to it.
Right, yeah, I'm already concerned for other things. Right?
Those are gonna be uncomfortable as hell while you sit in that car for a very long time.
You sit in there for an hour and a half at the very least. Yeah.
Like, fire retardant material is not fun to wear. It is horribly uncomfortable. I have to wear it for my job. Like, they are not comfortable in any way, shape, or form.
That's why they made fun of it after they announced the rules, because one of the drivers wore underwear on the outside of his pants, like his jeans, and then the other guy wore like 3 watches and like multiple chains and earrings galore. And they were making, they thought it was funny because not only were they poking fun at it, but it was just like, I mean, and that's the same though with F1. It's like, yeah, that changes every year. The cars change because of the rules that they make and the way they change the cars, not only for the teams as they change the engines and the aero packages, but the governing body changes. All right, we're going to use bigger wheels this year. We're going to have wheel covers. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So like that makes more sense. And it's easier for them to copy and paste that because, I mean, the tracks don't change. Yeah. You know, just like the stadiums don't change. So that's easy. So then most of the work just goes onto the cars and then just updating the liveries and the drivers where they're going and all that kind of stuff. So, like, that makes sense to me. For FIFA it's and Madden, you're spending a lot of time talking about how we've updated the physics and it looks much better. And it's like,
I feel like it keeps getting worse, though.
No. Yeah, players don't know. If they do notice, I mean, it's really more of a visual, I'd say, rather than an actual physical button, stick thing. And then I agree with that as well, where it almost feels worse.
Like, so it's Madden 08 was probably the last one I played religiously when they still used the shit out of the hit stick and everything, and I fucking loved it. And then they got rid of it. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care.
Whichever one that did the practice and it was all digital, it was like a hollow thing. That was the one I really enjoyed playing because I liked the hollow stuff. I liked that. I was like, it was
a cool idea, right?
I thought it was cool, and it's like now the practice is just they're obviously just on like a reserve field, like where the teams are at, and it's like that's cool too. But like, I mean, it was interesting as a kid to play it with like all the hollows and different sounds and stuff like that, and it almost felt like you put some effort into making something different rather than just we're just gonna go take pictures of all the fields, all the photography, and then we're just gonna put everybody, and it's lazy, and
it is
when you get lazy, that's what happens.
Yeah, and I think it's a mixture of laziness and also just time crunch stuff.
You said, I mean, when you have only a year to do it, right? I mean, it's by the time the game's released, they're already copy and pasting to the next one. Yeah, just updating the number, and it's like, when is that? Hopefully with this, it breaks. I would love to see something different happen for games or like sports games.
Yeah, I'm hoping EA gets a little bit of a slap on the hand here at some point, right? Because they've also talked about licensing like arcadey style, not simulation style, but arcade style NFL games. So I'm
Blitz.
Probably
like Blitz was.
That's what I hope for, right? Like I hope for that Blitz style game. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I would play sports games more if you had like arcadey, like late hit, just like brutal kind of stuff. Like I think Blitz 2 was like where you had to actually fix the injury, like you had to move the sticks.
Yeah,
like, I would play that.
Right.
But like no, I'm not gonna just play a simulator all the time. You want to have a bit more arcadey stuff.
Absolutely. So a little bit of a smaller piece here before we get into our last kind of bigger topic. So Gotham Knights will not be releasing on last gen consoles. It will only be coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, as well as the PC.
Do you got any?
I
got any opinion? Because I mean, I don't really.
I'm actually kind of happy to see this, and I don't want that to sound heartless for all the people that still cannot get these next gen consoles.
Sure.
This is more so like we're a ways into this generation now, and I don't think it's always a case of like the game is or the system is holding it back or whatever it may be. But I am excited to see, especially because I think this is really the first third party game that we've seen that has been like, hey, no, this is current gen only. But I'm excited to see that, and that gives me hopefully high hopes for this, right? Like now they can take the time that they would have to be putting into the game to not necessarily dumb it down, but bring it down a little bit so it can still run on, the PS4 that already sounds like it's a jet plane getting ready to fucking take off, or the Xbox One, which I mean was not a fantastic or powerful console, and so you have your Xbox One X, which is a fantastic console, but I'm excited to see this. I'm excited to see there's actually a topic that we want to talk about at some point, basically whether, current gen is actually all hype or if this is actually a real thing. Like if all the promises and all the fucking teraflops in the world or whatever the fuck, right, actually means anything at the right? Like at the end of the day, so far I have not seen anything that I'm like, okay, yeah, I heard I heard that the new Horizon game was fantastic and that was very visually stunning. I'm not a big fan of that series, Forbidden West. When I say Horizon, I meant the Horizon Forbidden West, not Horizon. The fucking Forza game,
Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Forza Horizon.
I know. I knew what I was talking about when I said it, but whatever. I know what you reiterate.
Mean.
Absolutely. Forbidden West. I heard it's beautiful. It's not really I couldn't get into the first one. I'm not planning on getting into the second one, but I think that's the closest we've gotten. Like I think Ratchet and Clank was actually a really good example of it. I think that was probably one of the closer things that I was like, hey, this is actually really pretty. But I mean, that wasn't necessarily just PS5. Like that came out on PS4 too, if I remember correctly.
I think it did. I remember you guys talking about it when it came out. You guys were really impressed with it. And it's like, I mean, you got even Nick is a great example, right? He's been buying games that he can get on his PC on his Xbox or PS5 just to see it. Yeah. And it's like, is it really like, I mean, I think maybe, I don't know if I'd say it's a good test, but like, in terms of PlayStation, you've got God of War later this year. Mm-hmm. That'll be a good test for a current gen thing.
Hopefully.
Obviously, you got Starfield now with Xbox, but again, how late is that after,
Right.
I mean, Halo was supposed to come out for the Series X, and then it got pushed back a year, and it's like, it's weird, right? It's like when they do good, and then but all the time, it almost feels like you're rolling along with this at a speed that you necessarily can't control.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
and that's what it feels like.
We're nearly 2 years into this generation. Like,
and what do you have?
Right. And there's always that time period, right? There is always that like 2-year gap of when everything is coming to both consoles and both consoles are still supported and things like that. And obviously this is also a very weird console release because people still can't get the consoles readily available.
Yeah, you have COVID, which is changing the whole system, right? Like, so you got everything changing because of that.
It is different, and from a business perspective, it makes sense to release it on last-gen consoles as well. And for the people that don't have these next-gen or these new current-gen consoles to be able to play it, but we're starting to get to that time period where I think this is the first, big third-party game that's like, hey, it's only on current gen, and I think I think it's gonna be. This is gonna be the start of that. I think we are going to see a lot more of that. I think going into once we pass this 2-year threshold, I think we'll definitely start seeing a lot more of games that are like, hey, we're just current gen. I mean, sorry to anybody that can't do it, but that's just where we're at. And
I think it's I think it's been easier to get them recently. I know that graphics cards have been very easy to get as of late. Like I'm seeing that Discord update a lot. So like I know that it's starting to get easier. It'll probably be easier towards the September, October Q4 of this year. It'll probably be easier to even get more of that stuff, both GPUs as well as the newer consoles. I gotta say, like I'm obviously not personally affected. I don't play games on console, right? I don't play. Yeah. I mean, at the most, you're gonna see me play anything that's just exclusive to it. So if you're like, hey, Uncharted 5's coming out, it's like, is it coming out on PC? Yeah, then I'm buying it on PC. I'm not buying it on the PlayStation. I don't care how long it's been there. I mean, God of War Ragnarok is like, that's the only reason. That's the only the reason I care. Like otherwise, if like Gotham Knights coming to PC, it's like cool, right? Like I'm gonna do that. And I'm probably gonna get it just because. I mean, I don't know. That kind of. I don't know. Like
I'm excited. Kind of on the fence. I'm on
the fence about it. Like I know that Rocksteady has been doing the Suicide Squad. So like I know that they're taking up with that. But then there's a part of me still where it's like, I'm almost upset that Gotham Knights is. I like the idea of what it is that it's after, like, and this isn't a spoiler as far as I know, but like it's after the death of Batman, and so you have his 4 proteges, and like they're supposed to fight like Mr. Freeze, Court of Owls, all this other kind of stuff. And the thing that upsets me most is that it's an original story. It's not in the Arkham universe. It's like you had it, like you could have. Although
I'm okay with it though, because
you're cool with it. I'm not.
They did Arkham. This is the same team that did Arkham Origins.
Yes. Yep.
So, and I felt like that game it wasn't a bad game, but it didn't live up to the Rocksteady games. No, it didn't. I felt like they were confined by what they were doing and trying to stay in line with the universe that was kind of already created for them, right? And so I think this is a chance for them to make a similar style game and create their own story without being confined to things that have already happened or being confined to, what Rocksteady has already put into place. And on top of that, I mean, we've already seen Red Hood in the Arkham series, so now if you had Red Hood acting as a protege, that would be weird. And then, I mean, you could have gone different routes with it and this and that, but I'm okay with that, especially with the Court of Owls stuff going on too. I think that is a very interesting story arc in the Batman comics and really sets up like a lot of different possibilities. So I'm excited for it, especially if it plays like an Arkham game. But the story not being intertwined is fine. Yeah,
I've seen it kind of does, but it also kind of doesn't. I know that some people, I was watching, apparently some gameplay was released actually like just today or yesterday. And I was watching it earlier, and some people were like, Nightwing has this like, kind of like a parachute glider thing, and people were like, you could have gone, like, some people were kind of upset with that, where they were like, you had an opportunity to kind of really go into parkour heavy stuff for him.
Yeah.
Like, and I would have been cool with that, right? Like, I feel some people felt like it's almost like they did it because it's easy to make just a wing glider.
Yeah, if you got into the parkour, that's, I mean, look at something like Mirror's Edge. Like, that's the entire game. Like, that's a whole different physics engine. You have to, without
there's a lot more to it, sure.
Yeah, you could go the route of like something like a Horizon Zero Dawn, where you can climb things, but it's only specific things, and it's only things that are painted yellow for whatever reason. Like, I'm actually okay with that, because I'm sure this is gonna be a pretty vertical and like larger game, kind of like the Arkham games have been, the way I kind of anticipate it. Yeah, I saw something. I think originally they announced it was only going to be like 2-player, but I think most recently there was something that came out that it was going to be up to 4-player. But yeah, I think
I'm interested.
I think if you make the parkour runs into like weird territory where it's like everything has to be specifically designed for that almost, or else it breaks very easily, or it just feels too scripted, and then it doesn't feel fun either. It's
it's not something where it's like you're coming up with it. I can see that, and I agree. I was just reading through the quick Wikipedia stuff, and that's it says the game is only going to feature a 2-player co-op mode. The second player can drop in and out at any time without affecting the other person. This is kind of where maybe I'm at my most apprehensive about it, is that while you can level up your character, which you could do in the Batman Arkham games, the enemies are leveled up as well. And that's where it's kind of
scaling, like... I don't care for that too much.
I'm one of those people who just like, as soon as it's almost like Ubisoft, right? I start seeing too much shit on my screen. I'm going to get annoyed. I'm going to be like, I don't care about the guy's health, because you know what's going to take me out of the game is when I shoot him in the head and his health bar doesn't just drop to 0, or he doesn't just die. Like, that's going to be upsetting to me, right? And it's the same thing here, where it's like, if I can turn off the bar, like health bar and enemies leveling up and whatnot, or like seeing anything above their head, I'm okay with that. If I can make it as much as like Arkham as possible, I will be okay with it, right? It's gonna get to, I'll probably get it, and if it gets to a point where it's like I'm playing as Nightwing or Batgirl and I'm just beating the crap out of somebody, and it's like I know I'm doing it and I'm like, they should be down, but I'm just like taking down their health bar, and like that's all it is. That's where I'm gonna be like, all right, no, I'm done, because I don't like, as soon as that happens, it kind of takes me out of it. I want it to be as immersive in that sense as possible, right? If I'm Batman and I just got to keep beating on some normal dude because his level is as high as me, I'm going to start to get annoyed, because it's like, I'm Batman.
Right.
Like, I'm going to feel like I should be able to take them down sooner or easier, which I think is the same for all of these characters. So I don't know. I'm still apprehensive about it. I'll probably watch more gameplay on it, and then I'll determine if I'm actually going to pick it up. But I don't know anything about the Court of Owls, so that's going to definitely interest me.
It's pretty interesting.
Because I know nothing about them. Yeah, I know nothing about
cool.
them. I know the other stuff. I obviously know, Mr. Freeze, Penguin, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So the Court of Owls, though, I have no idea. I've only heard about it from like you and Nick.
It's Illuminati-esque.
I'm trying to avoid as much as I can about it, because that was apparently Rocksteady was potentially going to do that with the next Batman Arkham game. It was going to be a Court of Owls after Arkham Knight, which is like, please still do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll start a Kickstarter for you guys to be able to do it. I'm sure we'll get the money, but like,
I wonder if Rocksteady has like helped with this in any way, shape, or form.
Did they help with Arkham Origins? Do you know?
I don't remember. I assume they had some input on it, just because it was based in the same universe, but
I'm sure.
I don't know.
I'm sure in that sense they did it.
But we'll see, right? Like, hopefully, I imagine we'll see something about this during Summer Games Fest or one of the various different events that have been announced. And I
still didn't look polished
excited
today, so yeah, it didn't look very polished in the gameplay today. So, but I mean, I understand that. I accept that. I'm not like, I mean, it looks like it's mostly done in terms of a world. Yeah. But who knows? Yeah.
Which
so I'm excited to see.
For reference, before we move on here, that is currently supposed to come out October 25th, 2022. So
we'll see.
Hopefully. This game that was supposed to be packed with some heavy hitters has gotten pretty thin as of late. So So moving on to our last news bit here, we'll run through this really quick. It's the Nintendo Indie World. The little direct that they do is like a 24-minute video, I believe. I'm going to go ahead and run through all of these real quick, and then we'll circle back and talk about anything that we want to talk about and just kind of talk about the event as a whole. So first up is Ooblets, which is coming out summer 2022. This is like an animal collection and farm simulator game, kind of Animal Crossing meets like kind of a Pokemon-esque type of thing. Okay. Baitora Lost Haven is coming out autumn of 2022. This is an isometric dungeon crawling brawler with puzzle elements. At a certain point, these become very hard to describe, by the way. Elekhead is coming summer 2022. This is a side-scrolling puzzle platformer. It looks damn near like it has Mario graphics. Like, everything looks identical, but it looks really cool, and it's a one-man team. Soundfall, which is out now, is an isometric rhythm-based shooter, up to 4-player local and online co-op for this one.
That's cool.
Wild Frost, coming out winter of 2022. This is a roguelike deck building game, which seems to be a fucking trend right now for sure. Totally Accurate Battle Simulator is coming to the Nintendo Switch in summer of 2022. This is a wacky physics-based strategy battle simulator game. If you have not heard of it, it took over YouTube there for a while. Like, it was a big thing. Yeah. Gunbrella is coming out in 2023, a noir punk side-scrolling action adventure game. We Are OFK is coming summer of 2022. This is a music biopic game with weekly episodes and interactive music videos.
That's cool.
Silt, coming out in June 2022. This is a side-scrolling, hand-drawn, monochrome puzzle adventure game. I'm just throwing out a lot of fucking adjectives at this point.
I mean, you could be saying it could not even be the game, and I believe you at this point.
Mini Motorways, which is out now, a traffic puzzle game with a minimalistic style. This is actually, each level's inspired by a real city, which is kind of cool. Wayward Strand coming out July 21st, 2022. One of the the only games in this entire thing that have a specific date. This is a 1970-based narrative adventure game that takes place in a flying hospital. Which, okay. All right. Cult of the Lamb coming out in 2022. This is an action adventure game with a randomly generated world where you have to basically like build a cult to go fight people, and you're like an animal of some sort. Another Crab's Treasure is coming out in 2023. This is a Souls-like game where you play as a crab traveling through the ocean floor, using trash as a shell because you've lost your shell. Or I think it was like repoed or something.
Repoed. Yeah, I didn't know they had that in crab culture.
Right. And then here at the very end, super minimal description on these because this was the montage that they did. So this has One Shot World Machine Edition coming summer of 2022. This is a puzzle adventure game, I think. I don't know. I looked it up and I still don't know what the fuck this game is. Gibbon Beyond the Trees out now. This is a side-scrolling platforming game where you play as a gibbon. Idle Manager Idle Manager is coming out August 25th, 2022, and it's exactly what it fucking sounds like. Card Shark is coming out June 2nd. This is a card game all about learning how to cheat at the game, which is kind of an interesting take.
Great. Teach the kids that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of set in like an old-timey, I don't know exactly. Yeah. It was almost like Renaissance time period, but yeah, you can like legit get stabbed and stuff. It's very bizarre. Curse to Golf coming summer 2022. This is a side-scrolling golf game with different power-ups and hazards throughout the levels that just make it more interesting and looks kind of like it could be some fun. A Guidebook of Babel coming autumn 22. A narrative adventure game about the butterfly effect, and Opus Echo of Star Song Full Bloom Edition, which is out now, and this is a visual novel game set in space. That is everything we saw in that 24 minutes. Is there anything that stands out to you, Evan?
To be completely honest, only like a couple. Yeah, the Mini Motorways game I've played on my phone, so like that's kind of cool. Still gonna play it on my phone, not gonna play it on my Switch.
Fair enough.
There's that, and then the other one that you just brought up, I thought was just funny, was the Card Shark game, which is like really. I mean, you can teach that to people now because there's not as much inherent danger if you cheat in a card game. But if you had to teach this to people back in like the 1890s, like don't do it because it's like you're just gonna get shot. And like apparently, like the trailer showed is, if you cheat in a card game back then, it wasn't like the law didn't like protect you or just reprimand you. It's like some guy just shot you.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't Renaissance times. It was almost more like Western times, wasn't it? I drawing a complete blank. This whole like indie world direct was a complete blur in my mind. I watched it today to write these show notes. It's just fucking gone.
I was reading through the notes you sent me and I saw that one and I thought it was funny. And my head just went back to whenever I would play Red Dead 1 and I would purposefully cheat in a card game so I could duel with some guy because I knew I'd kill him. Yeah, it's like that's all I noticed. The other ones, no. I mean that what was it? The OFK that kind of looked interesting. I like that the musical biopic thing. That's kind of cool. Where we are OFK. That could be interesting, but I mean, I don't typically play things on Switch. Totally Accurate Battle Simulator I have on my PC. That's fun.
That's gonna run like
a new console.
Dog shit on a Switch. Like no offense,
it runs like dog shit on a computer.
I was gonna say it doesn't run well. Period. Like if you put too much on the screen, an Xbox is going to explode somewhere, right? Like having this on the Switch just seems like such a weird choice. I get it, but also that Switch is just going to spontaneously combust.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the funny thing is you look at people who get new stuff for their computers are like, yeah, I'm going to play like Battlefield. I'll play God of War. I'll play COD. I'll play some really visually Red Dead 2, great example, or Star Citizen to really test out my system. It's like, no. It's not about the detail. It's about how much shit you can fit on the screen.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, you know what? You want to really stress test your computer? Go play Tabs.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Go play a game where you're fitting as much as you can onto one thing, and your computer's gonna go like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?"
It does not like it.
I got a 3090 Ti, I should be able to do it. It's like, no, it can't. It can't. You're losing.
So for me, Electhead was actually one that was pretty cool. I dig that cool. That it had that like very familiar Mario feel to it, but also a really cool like you could throw your head and then like pull your body to it. Like it just had some pretty interesting puzzle ideas, plus a one-man team. I'm a sucker for like side-scrolling puzzle platformers and stuff too. Like my Switch is solely side scrollers and JRPGs. Like that is all I play on there anymore. So that's perfect. That Gunbrella looked kind of cool too. That side scrolling noir punk style game. I don't do visual novel stuff, so the We Are OFK stuff is I'm a no-go on that. Another Crab's Treasure was interesting. I don't really want to play it, but it was kind of interesting just from what it was. Funny. It looked like it looked like it was a smaller team for sure. These are all indie games, obviously, but it definitely didn't have the polish in the trailer we saw. Granted, they still have a year, so maybe it'll be a little bit better, but it definitely it looked like it looked not incredible. And then Card Shark, I'm kind of interested about that. I'm not super sold on the art style, but I love the idea of the game just in itself.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's funny.
That's pretty cool. And Curse to Golf, I dig those kind of weird like I know whatever it is, right? Like this idea of just like, hey, you got to get to the end of the level, but you have to go through a teleporter and, you know, fucking skate it across ice and not fall in a pit and like all sorts of cool stuff like that. Like just a fun, turn your brain off and have fun type of game. But
no, absolutely.
Overall, I think this was certainly not my favorite Nintendo indie world that I've watched. Like, I've watched a lot of them at this point, and this one didn't do a whole lot for me. I forgot to mention the Mini Motorways as well. That's one, but I'm with you. I'll probably play it on my phone. That seems like a perfect mobile game.
It is. It's actually really fun. I didn't know it was based off real cities, though. That was what I learned from this. Like, if you were like, what takeaway did you get from the Nintendo indie world? I'd be like, I did not know that Mini Motorways was based off real cities. Like, that's it.
There was a lot of visual novel style games in here, which I don't care for. Like that Opus looked gorgeous. I loved the art style on it, but I don't do visual novel games. Like I'd rather just watch a fucking show at that point. Like if I'm going to play a game, I want to play a game. And that's just me personally. Like other people love them and that's cool. Like enjoy it, absolutely. But it is not for me. But yeah, overall, I thought this was kind of weak, to be perfectly honest. But
I'm not a Nintendo guy. Yeah. So, you know, I actually was laughing when you sent me the show notes and I was like, it's almost like on purpose. I was like, he's giving me all this Nintendo to talk about. I was like, I don't like Nintendo. I don't, but I did look through the list before we started and I was like, these things do look interesting. Like, I mean, sure. But I'm not a Nintendo guy. I don't use my dad's got a Switch and I just don't use it. Like, I think the only thing I've played through a Switch, I think ever in the entire lifespan of the Switch was the new Wii Sports game. And I played that just so I could kick the shit out of my brother in bowling. So
fair enough.
He was like, you don't know what you're doing. And I was like, all right. And I bowled a 200 and I was like, which is not good, as weak. I mean, like my dad did that. He bowled like a 200. He's like, I should have gotten 300. I'm like, you know what a 300 is.
Right.
Like, what were you like? What?
Yeah. In bowling, I'm like happy if I hit a 90 most of the time, you know?
Oh,
like,
absolutely. I can't do real bowling. I can't do real bowling. I'm terrible at it, but it's like, it's funny because my brother and my dad did the same thing in Wii bowling where it's like they hit it from the side like a curve so that way they can avoid getting a split. And it's like, I move the stick over till I'm facing center and I just bowl a perfectly straight ball.
Fair enough.
And 9 times out of 10, it'll just be a strike.
Yeah.
Like very rarely do I ever get a split with it. And it's like, my dad's like, yeah, you're trying to avoid a split. It's like, look at the statistics here, man. Like I've done the same move 10 times and I've only gotten a split twice.
Yeah.
Like you're almost better off doing it. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I've done with it. So the other stuff looked cool, but I probably won't really play any of it.
Yeah, I'll check a couple of them out probably, but
the card game looks cool, but I mean, I'm not gonna take the time out of my day to play it on the Switch. Really, I don't know.
Fair enough.
Maybe it's just me. I just have a really negative thing.
I'm sure it's gonna come to Steam too.
As soon as it does, I'll buy it. I'll buy it, and I'll be like, if it comes to anything else, like I'd be willing to play it. But just I don't know, man. I'm not a Nintendo guy. I don't know. Come after me in the comments.
It'll just be Ed. He'll be coming after you for sure.
Sorry, Ed. Don't never have.
Card Shark is coming to Steam on June 2nd. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. You can still play it. $17.
I have no reason to use a Switch. I have no reason to use a Switch ever in my life.
You need to have an Intel Core i3 though.
All right, I'm out.
I'm out.
Can't play. It's all right.
But with that, thank you guys so much for joining us for this episode of Diggity. Jeff is out of town, but he should be back next week. And I appreciate Evan hopping on here to help us out and get through all this news here, which it's been great to have news again. So with that, you can find Diggity over on Twitter and Instagram at Diggity Podcast. You can find WASD at WASD and Beyond on Twitter and Beyond WASD on Instagram, if I remember correctly.
I know I'm a member, but I don't remember.
No, you're good. You're good. And you can also find the rest of our shows, OBO and Build Bros, and as well as links to our shows over on spawncamp.co. If you have not checked that website out, you should definitely go do that because we had a good friend of ours spend a lot of time making it, and it looks fucking chef's kiss. I love it. But with that, we will see you next time, and thank you guys for watching and or listening.